Right now, you are a pile of atoms that knows it exists. Stop and feel that for a second. The carbon in your hands was once inside a dying star. The oxygen in your blood drifted for billions of years as cold, silent gas. None of it ever wanted anything. None of it ever felt anything. And yet, here you are, made entirely of that same dead matter, reading these words and somehow aware that you are the one reading them. The universe was never required to feel a single thing, and yet it did, quietly, without permission, because nothing was ever added. No spark fell from the sky, no special ingredient got mixed in. The same particles that sat in stone and seawater simply arranged themselves into a shape that could feel. And the story of how that happened is the story of how the universe slowly opened its eyes. Let's go back to the beginning. For most of cosmic history, there was no one home. Galaxies turned, suns burned, rocks fell through the dark, but the lights were on, and nobody was inside. The universe was a stage with no audience. It happened, but it was never experienced by anything. Then, quietly, the darkness blinked. Somewhere in a warm pocket of early Earth, molecules began copying themselves. They weren't alive in any way you'd recognize. They didn't think. They didn't try. They simply had a chemical habit of making more of themselves, and the ones that were better at copying became more common. That is the entire engine. Copy, vary, survive, repeat for a billion years. What does copying have to do with feeling anything? At first, nothing. The earliest life was blind in every sense. A single cell drifting in ancient ocean had no eyes, no nerves, no inner world. But it did have one new trick. It could react. Light here, dark there. Food this way, poison that way. The cell that drifted toward sugar lived a little longer than the cell that drifted toward acid. And that tiny difference, repeated across unimaginable time, became the seed of everything you are. This is the part most people miss. Awareness did not arrive all at once. It was built in slow, useful layers, and every layer earned its keep by helping something survive. A cell that could sense its world outlived a cell that couldn't. So sensing spread. Then sensing wasn't enough, because the world is full of things happening at once, and a creature needs to know which thing matters right now. So attention was born, a spotlight that points the body's limited energy at the one thing that could kill it or feed it. You still have that spotlight. You're using it on this sentence. As bodies grew more complex, a new problem appeared. A simple creature can react to the world directly, but a fast, hunting, moving animal needs to predict the world before it arrives. Where will the prey run? Where is the predator hiding? To predict, a brain has to build a small model of reality inside itself, a private map. And once a creature carries a private map of the world, something quietly profound has happened. There is now an inside and an outside. There is a world, and there is a version of the world held within. That gap between the world and the model of the world is where you live. The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades studying patients whose emotions were damaged by brain injury, and he found something that overturns the old story. We used to imagine that feeling was the opposite of thinking, the cold, logical mind versus the messy heart. But Damasio's patients, the ones who lost the ability to feel, didn't become brilliant logic machines. They became unable to decide anything at all. They would sit for an hour choosing between two restaurants. Feeling, it turns out, isn't decoration laid on top of thought. Feeling is the body's oldest way of knowing what's good for it and what's bad. It came first. The thinking came later and was built on top. So why does any of it feel like something? This is the question that still cracks the floor beneath scientists, and it has a name. Philosophers call it the hard problem of consciousness. We can explain how your eye detects light. We can trace the signal into your brain. We can watch the neurons fire. But none of that explains why there is a private redness when you see red. Why there is a someone in there having the experience instead of just machinery processing it in the dark. Sit with how odd that is. A camera detects light too. A thermostat senses temperature. A self-driving car builds a model of the road. None of them, as far as we can tell, feel anything. So what did your ancestors have that a thermostat doesn't? Why did the lights come on inside them? One of the boldest answers comes from a neuroscientist named Giulio Tononi, who proposed something called integrated information theory. His idea is that consciousness isn't a special substance at all. It's a particular shape that information can take. When a system doesn't just hold lots of information but weaves it together into a single, unified whole that can't be cleanly split apart, that integration, he argues, simply is experience. By this view, your brain feels like something because of how deeply its pieces are tied into one, not magic. Architecture. His longtime collaborator, Christof Koch, went looking for where in the brain that unity lives. For years, scientists assumed the seat of awareness must be the cortex, the wrinkled outer layer that makes us so clever. But the picture turned out to be subtler, pointing toward dense hubs deep in the brain where signals from everywhere converge and bind into one stream. Damage those hubs and the lights don't dim. They go out completely. Notice what this means. You feel like one person, a single, smooth, continuous you. But under the hood, you are not one thing. You are billions of separate cells, each one blind and mindless, none of them aware of the others. The neuron firing behind your left ear has no idea you exist. And yet, out of all that scattered, unfeeling machinery, a single, unified experience appears. The you reading this is what it feels like to be that vast crowd of cells working as one. How does a crowd become a self? The French neuroscientist Stanislas Dehaene has spent his career chasing exactly that moment. The instant a signal stops being unconscious and suddenly becomes something you're aware of. He found that most of what your brain does, you never notice. Information moves quietly through local circuits in the dark, but every so often a signal crosses a threshold and ignites, broadcasting itself across the whole brain at once, lighting up regions far and wide. That sudden global broadcast, Dehaene argues, is the difference between a thought you have and a thought you know you're having. Consciousness, in this view, is information going public inside your own head. So picture the whole arc now. Dead atoms forged in stars, molecules that learn to copy, cells that learn to sense, brains that learn to model, models that grew so rich and so unified that the model started to include the modeler. The map drew the mapmaker. And the moment a system builds a picture of the world that has itself inside it, the universe has done something it never did before. It has produced a small region that knows it's here. That region is you. This is the part that should stop you cold. You are not separate from the universe looking out at it. You are the universe, briefly arranged in a shape that can look. The same matter that spent billions of years as silent gas is, in you, sitting up and asking how it got here. When you wonder about the stars, it is quite literally star stuff wondering about itself. And it didn't have to happen. There was no plan, no goal, no hand guiding the process toward you, just copying and varying and surviving, blindly for 4 billion years, until the blindness accidentally produced something that could see. You are not the point of the story. You are a side effect of the story that became strange enough to notice it was being told, which raises a quiet, unsettling question. If awareness is just integrated information, just a global broadcast, just architecture, then where exactly is the line? A dog clearly feels. A fish probably does. An insect, maybe dimly. A single cell, almost certainly not. But the line between not feeling and feeling was crossed somewhere in your own family tree, generation by generation, with no fanfare and no exact moment. Your earliest ancestors were dark inside. You are not. Somewhere in the unbroken chain between them and you, the lights came on. And no one was there to see it happen, because there was, as yet, no one to see. So here is where it leaves you. The next time you catch yourself thinking, just notice the noticing. Feel the strangeness of it. A pile of atoms on a wet rock, circling an ordinary star, has folded itself into a shape complicated enough to ask what it is. That has perhaps never happened anywhere else in the visible cosmos. It is happening right now, in you, for a few short decades, before your atoms scatter again into the dark and forget. You are a pile of atoms that knows it exists. For a little while, the universe is awake, and it's awake as you.